A new car, same format. 2 settings. One's oversteer and one's stable. More controllable, at least it performs the way that I like. Onto the settings. So this is the stable setting. Modifications, so I've modified this car for some races, but I've left it as it is. Brake controller and other stuff. And computer, everything. Gearing, this is important because I've changed it. This is the gearing. Okay. This car drives basically how I want a front-wheel drive car to perform. And then I'm going to change to the oversteer setting real quick. And the only difference is the rear natural frequency, including the brake controller. So rear natural frequency is blue. That's the only change. So with the softer rear natural frequency, in conjunction with the soft rear anti-roll bar, creates what's called roll oversteer, and that causes oversteer. It's particularly in these front engine, front wheel drive cars, but any car, particularly with a really far forward weight balance. This has a 65% front weight balance, and so the way to get this car to perform, especially because it's front wheel drive, is to use the weight shift to get it to rotate. Anyway, I'm going to start with the controllable setting. The other car is controllable also, but it's a lot more oversteer, it takes a lot more focus, and it essentially drifts around the track without rear wheel drive. So here's a good lap, or hopefully a good lap with this car. Not going to be a good time attack lap or anything. I don't know the track. Slow down here. There we go. So the main focus of this particular setting is the steering wheel around the track. It's how much steering input I'm actually putting into the car around these corners. And the car doesn't really understeer. It only understeers once the car is settled in the corner off throttle. So once the car is either on the brakes or on throttle, it essentially oversteers. As you can see, the car is rotating really well on throttle around that double apex corner. Need a brake here, I think. Whoa, a little bit unstable on the brakes. Not too unstable over that crest. So I think I need to make the front spring a little bit stiffer, judging by how much oversteer I got on the brakes with a forward brake bias. I've done a little bit of testing with this car, but apart from this testing, I haven't driven a front-wheel drive car with the wheel yet. And with the new update, the 1.15 update, it's really good. That's how much rotation I can get the car, so how much rotation I can tune into the car on the brakes. I would still like to open up the initial torque more than 5. So 5 is the minimum initial torque setting. I want less. Get a little bit more rotation off throttle. a little bit of understeer in the tight turns where it's slow. I can't get enough weight shifts in the rear end to rotate the car around the turn, so I have to turn the wheel a lot. Yeah, these hot hatches are really fun to drive in real life as well. Something that most games or most sims don't capture is that they actually oversteer. And the Gran Turismo 7 emulates front-wheel drive cars much better than Gran Turismo Sport did. So I'm running with ABS on. I've posted videos on front wheel drive before, but in those videos I had to run with ABS off and a maximum rear brake bias. But with the current update, I don't have to do that. I can leave the ABS on and move the brake bias forward, actually. So the reason why I want to move the brake bias forward is because of what's called suspension jacking, or jacking effect in the suspension. In a front-wheel drive car, because the weight is so far forward at 65% front in this particular car, the front end, when you make the front end really soft, the front end dives so much in the corners that the rear inside tire lifts up off the ground. And if the inside tire is off the ground, or even just gently rubbing against the road, if you're on the brakes, it's going to lock up. If it's in the air, it's going to lock up, and if it's not, doesn't have enough contact on the road, it's going to lock up. So actually having a brake bias that's too far rearward in a front-wheel drive car makes the car perform worse. And now with these, I keep saying it, with these current new settings, or new update settings, the car performs right. I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing right now. But a nice hot hatch with paddle shifts. Oh, too much understeer there. That time I didn't get rotating on the brakes enough. So a nice front-wheel drive car with a dual clutch transmission or paddle shifts is really fun to drive. And this game captures that experience very well. And it's something that most other sims don't capture, particularly with other than racing tires, is the tires aren't as forgiving in other sims as they are in real life, which, in my opinion, I feel Gran Turismo emulates the forgivingness of regular street tires, whether they be performance street tires or economy street tires. That they don't. Gran Turismo does simulate the what's called the forgiving nature of the tire, where the car slides and it doesn't just snap into an uncatchable oversteer. But as for the race tires, I wouldn't know. I had one off in that really high speed overcrest left-hander before the, I think, box hole or something. I forget what it's called. It's the dip in the track in the very beginning of the racetrack. I had to let it off there, so it's not going to be a good time. But through the rest of the track, it's noticeable that the car has a lot of composure, a good composure through the turns. It rotates, but not too much. Braking really early here. I don't think I need to be as gentle as a rear-wheel drive car. So it could be faster, especially with the sports soft tires. Now to compare this setting to the really oversteery setting. Just an overview of the changes that's made. Just the rear natural frequency. Nothing else. Okay. Still gonna power understeer if I overthrottle the car in the corners. So it is a front wheel drive car, just like that. Lift off over here. Almost counter steering. Whoa, counter steering through here. Counter steering through the corners, pretty much, on the brakes especially. This is a little bit too much oversteer for a front wheel drive car, in my opinion. Still very fun to drive. So again, the thing to note is the steering angle I put in the steering wheel. Very little steering input into here. See that turn? Very much likened to a four-wheel drift in a rear-wheel drive car, but this is front-wheel drive, so it's kind of doing a four-wheel drift. Just not under power in the same way. Oh, be careful here. Not under power the same way a rear-wheel drive would do it. It does it by pulling the front end into the corner. Careful here, I'm going to lift off and get back on power. Okay, there we go. There's that oversteer. Still won't oversteer in the slow speed corners, there's not enough inertia to get the car to do the roll oversteer. This is very fun to drive, but it's a little bit too oversteery. There's that oversteer. I'm going to try to make the car slide. There it is. There's the slide. Oh, too fast. Can't Scandinavian flick that. I could if I did it right, but I didn't do it right that time. I was going to try to do it, but it didn't turn out properly. Let's see if I can get it sliding here. A lot of oversteer on the brakes. And note the forward brake bias. So the difference is very marginal, but if you notice where I counter-steered that high-speed turn right there, that's the difference between this setting and the other setting, is that the rear anti-roll, not anti-roll, but rear natural frequency stiffness makes the car more stable. And because it reduces the roll oversteer. See if it oversteers through here. And it does counter-steer. Oh, a little bit too much oversteer. Notice I'm putting very little steering input into the car. and counter steer around that high-speed turn. So I could probably go just as fast with these settings, these oversteer settings, as I can with the other settings. But this is a little bit more difficult to do so, just because of how much counter steer I have to put into the car. There's a good oversteer. Oh, never mind. I was going to try and oversteer on the brakes, but too much brake pressure. There's oversteer on the brakes. Oh, shoot. Didn't slow down at the right time. The gearing is not quite right for this section of track. Oh, understeered there twice. I think the tires are heated up in a strange way. There's that oversteer. Oh, a lot of counter steer. The higher speed to the corner, the more inertia the car has to do the roll oversteer. Here's the oversteer on the brakes. Notice I unwound the steering wheel and throttle, and it's not understeering on throttle. Anyway, the whole point of this video, apart from sharing the settings of this front-wheel drive car, is with the new update, the 1.15 update, before this last one that just came out, front-wheel drive cars are really fun if set up properly. I could tune this with a little bit more understeer, make the front spring a little bit stiffer so it's more stable on the brakes, and have also stiffer rear natural frequencies so it doesn't roll oversteer as much. Oh, forgot to brake early there. Made the corner just fine. So if you notice, it wasn't much faster than the previous setting, even though I had the off track with the other setting. Let me get a good thumbnail, play some replay. Watch that four-wheel front-wheel drive drift. Till the next one.